Welcome to the Early Wedge Tuesday Best Bet Show. I am your host, Eric Cohen. We are 1 week ahead of the U.S. Open, but this is still a big one, the RBC Canadian Open, and we're looking to pick some winners for you. Now, technically, our winning streak continued last week because Patrick McDonald gave out Scotty Scheffler in the OAD. However, we'll talk more about that as we go along. You know, it'd be nice if you put him in the actual splash pool, but that's another story. We have the great Patrick McDonald from CBSSports.com. And, of course, Jason Sobel, who's everywhere, literally on SiriusXM earlier today, BetMGM, probably every other golf media outlet. Where else you at, Sobel? Did I miss something?
I don't know. I'm just sitting at my desk and people call me and I keep the laptop on. I don't know.
Listen, it's great to be on with you guys as always. Sia Nejad is not here. He's down in Florida at headquarters doing a bunch of things. But Sia is he's such a great guy that he gave us his picks nonetheless. So we don't have the logic, but if you're looking for Sia's picks, we got them for you. All right. Let's get into the RBC Canadian Open. And I mean, this is a tournament that has been won by 8 of the last 9 years, or 8 of the last 9 editions by non-Americans. Will it happen again? We'll see. It's my storyline. I gave that out a little quickly. But let's get to your storylines. And you know what, Sobel, I'm going to start with you here, embracing the unknown.
Yeah, so I think that's Patrick's storyline, but I can take his because it's basically the same thing as mine. There's just a lot of variables this week. U.S. Open qualifying yesterday. I haven't counted up how many players in the RBC Canadian Open field were playing 36 holes yesterday, but I've got to believe close to half. So that's a lot of guys who come in with tired legs to an event that is an unknown this week because we don't know the golf course very well. TPC Toronto looks difficult. Nearly 7,400 yards, plays to a par 70. Although I did hear, and this came from Drew Stoltz, the sleaze, who I did a PGA Tour radio show with earlier today. PGA Tour Canada last year played this golf course. The winning score was 25 under. We think there might have been a chance they played it as a par 72 and not a par 70, but still, that feels very scoreable. So we'll see what it plays like. I think it's going to be a little tougher this week. And the other variable is that we've got a U.S. Open next week. I'm not saying that Rory McIlroy or Ludwig Oberg or Shane Lowry or any of the other top players are only thinking about next week, but they've got one eye on Oakmont as they're playing TPC Toronto this week.
I'm looking that up right now, Sobel. I'd love to know what that's all about, how you go 25 under par on a course that we thought was going to be hard. But thank you for kind of improvising while I got the storyline wrong. Patrick, we're embracing the unknown, aren't we? I think, maybe?
I think so, right? Not only the U.S. Open qualifiers, but the top of this odds board too, right? Where's Rory McIlroy at? We'll finally get to hear him talk tomorrow morning. Where Ludwig's game at? Final round 66 on Sunday, bogey free. But is that a flash in the pan or a sign of things to come? The Canadians, can they win their second National Open in the last 3 years? Who knows? Not a lot of them do a lot of winning. Like when you think about Corey Connors, Shane Lowry, I know he's your boy. EC, is he going to do a lot of winning? I don't know. And so embrace it. Fire some long shots this week. Scotty Scheffler's not in the field. Have some fun. Sprinkle it around. Spread the wealth a little bit. And EC, I want to circle back here. And I was thinking this whole time, who is the one American who won the Canadian Open?
The one American who won the Canadian Open was Dustin Johnson.
Oh, I don't think I would have gotten that.
I looked it up because I wanted that. That was my storyline, which I gave out quickly. DJ won it. I think it was 2018. Now, the one thing about this event that you don't think about is they didn't play it in 2021 either after COVID. So they didn't play it in 2020 nor 2021. So there was a hiatus between 2019 and 2022. So that's why the stat goes back a little ways. But DJ was your winner. We had Johnny Vegas get a couple of back-to-back victories in it. But Americans don't win this event. And that's why this week, probably don't want to pick an American to win it. If Tommy Fleetwood was in it, yeah, I might pick him. If Shane Lowry, wait, we'll talk about that later. Guys, I want to talk to you about PGA Tour, like the U.S. Open qualifying yesterday. The longest day in golf. It was very cool to see. Sobel, any thoughts, surprises other than watching Max Homa carry his own bag for 36 holes, which is mind-boggling to me.
So first of all, I'm learning some things right here as we're talking. First of all, yes, PGA Tour Americas. It's not called PGA Tour Canada anymore. They played the Fortinet Cup Championship there last fall. never trust Drew Stoltz on anything. The winner was Will Cannon at 5 under par for the entire week. So yes, it should play difficult. It wasn't 25 under par. It was 5 under. And there's a guy on that leaderboard that I'm going to talk about later in the show.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. Going back to qualifying yesterday, Max Homa is in a really weird place right now. Poor guy didn't have a caddy. Sounded like he maybe didn't want a caddy. There were quotes with Dave Shedlowski from Golf Digest, which essentially sounded like, he didn't want to talk about anything, didn't want to deal with anything. Said he kind of liked being out there just by himself because he didn't have anyone to complain to when he hit a bad shot. It sounds like he has broken up with Bill Harkey, who he had on the bag for about 2 months. He will have Lance Bennett on the bag this week at the Canadian Open. Lance Bennett had been on Michael Thorbjornsen's bag. Thorbjornsen has hired JJ Jakovic, who is on Colin Morikawa's bag because Morikawa took Homa's caddy in Griner. So a lot of stuff moving around. Thorbjornsen, by the way, not in the field this week. I don't know. So all of that said, I think Max Homa, there's some positivity there. If you don't play some good golf at Augusta National, Quail Hollow, and Muirfield Village without having something locked up there inside you. That said, it's not enough to get it done for 4 rounds right now. So that's part of the rationale there from Monday qualifying for the U.S. Open. The other part of this, and I've tried to figure this out for the last 15, 20 years. I have no idea, guys, whether you want to take the guys who played on Monday because hey, they got some good feelings coming off that, or now they're trying to scurry around and make reservations for next week, and the guys who didn't make it through, like, I got to step on the gas pedal. I don't know if there's a necessarily great conclusion to any of this, but it was a fun day nonetheless. I remember that golf's longest day just not that long ago, 10, 12 years ago. Forget live video. We didn't have live scoring. I mean, we had literally guys coming in after 9 holes would tell you what their scores were. They'd put it into a computer. That's the only way we even knew anything that was going on the golf course. So times have changed very quickly.
Patrick, you see a guy like Eric Van Rooyen go out and shoot, like, blow away his qualifier. And you're like, all right, wait, is this dude, like, I think he's still in the field this week. You got to bet him when you see that, right? Or is Sobel said, is there any correlation or not?
Nah, it's a one-off. Just move on to the next week. Good for these guys, obviously, who got through. A lot of great stories, but I think it's only a positive if you use it in your case, right? It's like, oh, he won his U.S. Open qualifying site. He's playing great golf. I'm going to use it. Oh, he didn't qualify. I'm not really looking too much into that.
So if a guy didn't qualify and you don't look at it and say, hey, he's got his only chance to get in is via this week?
No.
No, you get into the top 60 this week if you're not already in. I just saw some projections like Eric Cole got into a playoff, didn't make it through. I think he's second alternate from whatever site he was in, the Columbus site maybe. Cole needs a 5th place finish or better this week. So there's still a few chances. And the guys who are alternates sometimes get in, and the USGA is always very shady about which alternates are going to get in first, and they never really tell us and just announce it when some guy WDs. So, yeah, there's still chances if you're not in right now, but they're very few.
Let's get to first-round leaders. Michael in the chat says, are we liking Thomas Dietrich FRL? You'll find out here in a second. Sobel, you're going to start us off with a couple of – oh, really? Keith Mitchell. Really? You and Sia with Keith Mitchell? Yes. He's going to do it again?
Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. Fool me 3 times. I'm just going to start blindly betting you for first-round leader plays. Keith Mitchell has finished first-round leader in 3 of his last 7. He was second place in 2 others. Yeah, I mean, look, for all the money that I've burned on Keith Mitchell outright tickets over the last handful of years, I might as well burn it on first-round leader tickets. I feel like I have a better chance with those than with the outright tickets. I know we'll hear from some Mitchell outrights later in the show here, but I will take him for a Thursday play once again. Why not? At this point, it feels stupid if you don't have him. And Isaiah Salinda, I'm looking for some upside. Big hitter, showing that he can play some good golf on some big golf courses. And I'm just looking for a guy who's going to step on the gas pedal, who's like, hey, whatever, you know what? Let's just go shoot 62 and see what happens.
I think Sia probably has the same approach as you do, going with Keith Mitchell at 50-1, Harry Hall at 50-1, Ryan Fox at 55-1, Carson Young at 100-1, same as your Celinda, and then Thomas Rosenmueller 120-1. I don't know where he came up with that, but I am going to be fading Thomas Rosenmueller in our next segment as we go around the world. But before we get to one of our sponsors, I want to say this.
Sure.
You guys are going head-to-head on your matchup play. Get ready for a little debate here on Early Wedge after we hear from one of our sponsors.
Get ready.
Wait a second. I thought we were going tubing.
All 3 Sonic the Hedgehog movies and Knuckles are now streaming on Paramount Plus.
And everyone loves it.
Every adventure,
Just try to keep up.
every face-off,
This ends now.
and every moment that will have you saying,
Where have you been? My entire life!
It's showtime.
all 3 Sonic the Hedgehog movies and the entire Sonic universe are now streaming on Paramount Plus.
Appreciate all of you in the chat today. If you are watching this video, please make sure to follow the SportsLine page and like this video as it helps us out. All right, let's move on to matchups. And this is an interesting one. We're going to let you guys each present your case. As I remember, Bob McIntyre won this event last year, and he's going for consecutive victories. And Patrick, you like him over Sam Burns, and Sobel, you don't. So Patrick, we'll start with you. Why are you playing Bob McIntyre?
Well, he's the better driver, and he's the better iron player, and he's regained his form, had a great early part of the season, and then April and May, not so hot, but last 2 starts looking much better with the play at Colonial, and then obviously the top 20 last week too. So obviously there's some early week obligations he has to take care of. He was out at the other golf course, Hamilton, today, going through some of the shots he hit en route to victory last year, but just a guy like on what could be a difficult golf course. And I think he's playing better than Burns right now. So I'll take it at -1 time.
All right, now Sobel, your turn. That's good logic. Why are you playing Sam Burns over Bobby Mack?
I think the wrong player is favored in this matchup. I think Burns is the better player. I think he's been playing a little bit better recently. The game's starting to come around. He was positive strokes gained in, I believe, every category last week. Recently, he's been just about average with the driver, just about average with the irons and wedges, and as he usually is, really good with the putter. This feels like it could be a good golf course for him. He seems like a guy who's hungry enough to. It means something to him. I know a lot of the big-name players are probably looking ahead towards next week a little bit. Burns is a guy that could probably use a win at some point here in a smaller field, and he's kind of caught in one of these, like, he's good enough to get into all the signature events and the majors, the players, the playoff events, and essentially play a big boy schedule. But he's not really beating down Scotty's door, and he's not beating Rory, and he's not beating all the other big name players. And at some point, you only have a couple of chances during the year. If you're getting into all those events, you only have a couple of chances to go beat up on some inferior fields. This isn't a terrible field by any means, but Burns has to take his chance when he can get it. And then I love Thorbjorn Olesen. I'm going to talk a lot about him over the next few segments here, but a big hitter against a Canadian in Mackenzie Hughes, who is a really nice player. I love Mac. He's one of my favorite guys on the PGA Tour. That said, shorter hitter, relies on the short game, and I think this is one you're going to have to overpower a little bit. Olesen, I'll get into it, but Olesen has been much better statistically than I think anyone realizes.
Yeah, I mean, that's looking ahead. We know you like Thorbjorn. Patrick, is there a thing about betting Canadians in this tournament? I know we've only had one in the last, 70 years or something like that, 50 years. That's one, and that was obviously Nick Taylor with that 72-footer a couple years ago. Watching Sobel fade Mackenzie Hughes, is that surprising as far as the fading the Canadians, or are you with that or against?
I don't know if it's a Canadian thing. I think Taylor's win actually inspired a lot of them. You saw a bunch of them in contention last year, Hughes included, Corey Connors too. Taylor Pendrith is playing some really good golf also. So I think it's more just a Hughes in a course fit type of deal. And Olesen talked about the U.S. Open qualifying, played great yesterday also, and is playing great like Sobel said. So I think that's really why, not really the Canadian stuff.
Sia and I are going around the world. If you love these top nationality plays, we have you covered this week. Sia's going with top Oceania. It's one of his favorites. Ryan Fox at even money over Carl Phillips, Harrison Endicott, and Aaron Baddeley. And he's going with Harry Hall to win top Englishman at plus 185 over Matt Wallace, Justin Rose, Danny Willett, David Skins, and Paul Waring. I'm going with Matty Schmidt at even money over Jeremy Paul and Thomas Rosenmueller. Schmidt has 3 top 10s in his last 5. Wasn't great last week. Jeremy Paul, Thomas Rosenmueller, not sure what to expect there, even though Sia did have Thomas in his first-round leaders. And then Antoine Rosner at plus 190 over Victor Perez and Matthew Pavon as the top Frenchman. So this is an interesting one because it's 11 straight made cuts for Rosner and generally thrives on approach, which is what you'll need at this golf course. Victor Perez has 1 finish above 60th since March, and Matthew Pavon, you know how many top 40s he has this year, Sobel?
Not many.
2.
How about
1.
0?
0.
Oh,
0 top 40s.
wasn't he in the final group Saturday?
He was
PGA?
Sunday, I think.
Saturday.
Yeah, and I know you're right on Saturday,
Oh,
and then I think he faded. Yep,
Damn.
and he was in the final group, I believe, on Sunday at the U.S. Open last year.
He was with Bryson.
Yeah, that's great. I remember looking at him like, why is this dude wearing long sleeves? It's really hot and humid out here in North Carolina, and this guy's what I'm like. What am I missing here? All right, let's move on to finishing position. Sia does not have any plays here, but you guys do, and we will start with you, Patrick, with a guy that you had just mentioned in the last segment, Bobby Mack.
Yeah, Bobby Mack top 20 at plus 140. Everything I said with that Burns matchup still holds true for this top 20 finish. Hitting it great. Putter's coming around in the last couple of weeks, and I like him on difficult golf courses. So I think plus 140 is actually a pretty nice price. And then had to dip my toes into the Canadian waters, and Corey Connors top 20 plus 105. He has 9 top 20s in his last 10 starts, I believe. Is he going to win this golf tournament? Probably not. But is he going to be on the first or second page of the leaderboard? Probably yes. And so at plus 105, sure, I'll take it.
Can we just say the outright odds are absolutely disgusting for some of these guys this week? Corey Connors hasn't won. He's won one tournament in his career. His PGA Tour career is like less than 20-1. I mean, it's like betting Tommy Sobel. It's like betting Tommy Fleetwood at these low numbers. However, we're talking about top Canadian market. There's so many. David Talk brings it up in the chat. There's like 29 Canadians. So in this, so you couldn't play that. C and I didn't want to play that. Patrick obviously likes Corey Connors there, but Sobel, I love your pick of Taylor Pendrith here.
Yeah, so look, I'm not going to say that Taylor Pendrith is going to beat Corey Connors. I like Connors this week too. I think Pendrith's number is a little bigger. I'm targeting Pendrith because he tends to be a course horse. Like when it's a long, beefy golf course, give me Pendrith. He's a big hitter. He's played this golf course too. He's played TPC Toronto about 50 times, which is probably about 50 more than anybody else in this field other than a couple of other players, mostly Canadians. So I will give him a little bit of a bump for the experience there, plus 120 for the top 20. And then a couple of months ago, we weren't talking about Cameron Young at all. I'm still not ready to go all in, but he's been playing better golf. He's coming around, qualified for the U.S. Open yesterday, and I'm going to take him at minus 115 on what essentially is a Northeast-style track. He plays well on these kind of golf courses, and very, very much just kind of dipping my toe in, like Patrick said about going with a Canadian for top 20. I'm dipping my toe in on the Cameron Young waters. I don't love him for anything more than that, but for a top 40, I think he makes sense this week.
Sobel, I'm kind of with you on the do not bet list that we'll talk about in the next segment. I got a player in my top 20 bets that I have to include. That's Keith Mitchell at plus 170. So Mitchell has 4 top 20s in the last 6 solo events that he's played. Okay. Usually pretty good off the tee and on approach, and the putter has been better of late. Do you trust the guy when it gets in crunch time? I don't, and I don't think I ever will. But for a top 20, yeah, no pressure. That's like a Corey Connors special. You have nothing to worry. Corey Connors, he's not quite on the no bet list because I do like betting him, but he's not winning anytime soon. I'll tell you, Colin Morikawa is real close to being on that list. Real close. Real close.
Do it.
Another guy who has been close
to
being on that list is Sam Burns. But I'll tell you, Sam Burns, as you talked about, Sobel, since the Masters, he has a top 5, 4 top 20s, and he's been inside the top 30 in each of those 5 events that he has played. He finally finished positive on approach at the Memorial for the first time since February. So it's the start of a trend. I don't know what to make of Sam Burns here, but you know what? A number plus 125 for a top 20 in a field that's not great. Okay, go ahead, Sobel.
EC, I just wanted to go to the chat. Hef Sterling is asking you about Sudarshan Yelamaraju, and I know that you've got a lot of thoughts on this guy. He's a lefty from Canada. I don't even have to look this up. Look, no hands. Like I'm not touching my keyboard at all. He was tied for 5th 2 weeks ago on the Corn Ferry Tour, but he withdrew last week in the second round. That has me thinking that something's a little wrong. So otherwise, I'd be all in on Yelamaraju, but I'm out this week. I don't know what's wrong with him, and I'm not willing to risk going after a guy who WD'd the week before.
Thank you, Sobel, for taking care of that. I would have come close on the name. I would have done better than Frankie Capon, who I then pronounced Sapon like 5 or 6 weeks ago. You never know what you're going to get on this show every week, and that was not my finest moment. Hey, you win some, you lose some, and that's why we'll talk about the do not bet list and our outrights, because we have to win some this week. We haven't talked about Rory McIlroy yet. Is he in play this week? Find out next after we hear from one of our sponsors.
Get ready.
Wait a second. I thought we were going tubing.
All 3 Sonic the Hedgehog movies and Knuckles are now streaming on Paramount Plus.
And everyone loves it.
Every adventure,
Just try to keep up.
every face-off,
This ends now.
and every moment that will have you saying,
Where have you been? My entire life!
It's showtime.
all 3 Sonic the Hedgehog movies and the entire Sonic universe are now streaming on Paramount Plus.
Guys, there's some bad news here. The do not bet list may be in jeopardy this week, according to several of us. We've got Cam Young in the field. You just talked about him. Got Keith Mitchell in the field. We've talked about him. Got Sahith, his 80-1, probably not a threat right now. Shane Lowry, yeah, not good. I'll tell you what. I think we have some problems. What did I miss? What did I miss?
Sahith WD'd.
Oh, he did.
Yes.
Okay, good. So we're good there. Okay, I missed that.
Good, yeah.
Okay.
Thank God.
I saw him at 80-1, and I was like, man, how the mighty have
Definitely
fallen.
do not bet Sahith this week.
I mean, you would get a refund. So.
I think you're good on Zalatoris for a bit also, unfortunately.
Yeah, he's out till the fall. I do know that. So we're good there.
I think you're also good on Xander under plus 1,000 because I don't think he's getting there for a little while either.
Yeah.
No, well, I mean, that's true. Yeah, you're right. So I am good with that. I think he's going to perform well next week. We'll talk about the U.S. Open later in the show. All right, let's get to outrights. Sobel, we'll start with you here because you're going to go with 3 guys, including one that you talked about earlier, who you really love, and Thorbjorn Olesen.
I am attacking the mid-tier this week. Gives me room to go with a few guys on my card this week. I might extend it beyond just the 3 that you see on the screen here, but I'm starting with Olesen. Thorbjorn Olesen doesn't really have the results. He's only got 2 top 10 finishes so far this year on the PGA Tour, but he's ranked 13th in strokes gained total, which is the greatest barometer of performance that we have. If you're looking to basically like line up all the players and see who's playing the best of anyone all year, it's going to be strokes gained total, and he is above guys like Keegan Bradley and Victor Hovland so far this year. He's playing some really, really good golf. At 50-1, I think that makes a lot of sense. He plays well on big ballparks as well. Same goes for Kurt Kitayama. Early in the year, he was like the statistical darling that guys like me wanted to go after because the numbers looked good, but the results were horrible and everyone was losing money on him. Well, the number has since drifted. Everyone's jumped off a little bit. I'd like a little bigger than 55-1, but I still think there's value there. This is a guy who's won at the Arnold Palmer Invitational a couple of years ago, and I think this could be a good setup for him this week as well. He's got a top 5 and a top 30 among his last 3 starts. And then talking about guys who are hot right now, and a guy that can absolutely mash is Chris Gotterup. 5 straight top 30 finishes, 25 years old. He's starting to come into his own. Just looks like he's feeling more comfortable on a weekly basis. He's got all the talent in the world. I love him at 65-1 this week.
Interesting that you're going that far down the board, Sobel, with 2 Americans as well. Patrick, we know the history here, and of course, my trends are meaningless and have been proven meaningless just about all year.
The Players Championship.
There was the Players Champion. There was the one that at the Cognizant where nobody that had I think was not in the top 10 after round 2 had won in the last 15 years. And Joe Highsmith wins after
made
being
the
on the
cut
cut
on the number.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Players
So,
was
and
more
then-
like early late wave or late early wave, something like that.
That was the players. I'm sure there's more of them. I love playing the trends. As my buddy Propstars tries to tell me year in, year out. One time I went to him and I said Derrick Henry had rushed for 190 yards against the Texans in like 6 straight games, and he says, "What do the last 3 years have to do with this one?" Good point. I mean, it's fair. I deserve that. Patrick, you were actually made a really good pick last week with Jordan Spieth.
Thank
You had Ben Griffin the week before, and then as a solo, right, as a single bullet, and then you gave out Spieth last week, and I thought you were crazy, and he gave you the full Spieth experience. Now you're giving us the full Cameron Young experience.
Yeah, look, Jordan Spieth was the Leroy Jenkins bet of the year. Unfortunately, since it was the bet of the year, I can't do it again. But if there was a second version of it, it would be this bet with Cameron Young. As Sobel said, emerging from that 5-man playoff in Columbus, Ohio. Imagine what it's going to do for this guy's confidence. You saw how pumped up he was. You saw how animated he was. He threw a little bit of a fist pump. He smiled a little bit. Didn't show teeth, but he smiled a little bit. And so we're riding the wave. We're riding the momentum. He's going to parlay that. Granted, he lost to Eric Van Rooyen by about 8 strokes, I believe. But he's going to parlay that performance into his first victory on the PGA Tour.
I can't believe you're doing that.
At 70 to 1. 70 to 1.
Patrick, there was a good one on Twitter I saw, and I would credit, but I have no idea who wrote it. It might have been you, but it said, Cameron Young just won because Ricky Fowler's there to shake his hand afterwards.
That's rude. That is rude. That is rude. Very rude.
That's nasty. That's all right. Next. So then your boy Ryan Fox, who you hit, or Sobel hit the other week.
And look,
41.
and you think about it, I mean, Cam Young's just a kid from the Bronx. He'll be okay in Canada. Ryan Fox, 70 to 1, winner in Myrtle Beach, as Jason Sobel predicted in his crystal ball. And he's been playing great golf ever since.
If you take him and he wins, he will buy you drinks.
Okay, that's great to know.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And then finally, my Japanese brother, Ryo Hisasune, Ryo-san, 86 to 1, found this one on the black market. Was kind of like frisky at the PGA Championship. There was a moment there on Saturday. I was like, what the hell is this guy doing here? Yeah. I kind of think he cheats a little bit, which we can get into. He's playing great, and he played great at the Charles Schwab Challenge too.
Well, what do you mean he cheats?
So he puts water in his mouth before every single putt. I think that's cheating because it could be used as a level on the greens. If you think about it, if you have water in your mouth and you do aim point.
I mean, I'm not that. I just get up there and I hit the putt. I don't know. I'm not smart enough to line things up.
I'm not out here accusing people or anything like that, but I think it's a gray area.
I've got no problem with it. I also take a drink before every shot too.
Do you really?
Probably a different kind of drink.
Different,
yeah,
not water.
Okay, fair enough. So, guys, C is on Luke Clayton this week, and at 30 to 1, and this is in the without Rory McIlroy group, and he and I love to play these without groups. The thing about Clanton, they paired him up in his first official PGA Tour start as a pro with Rory McIlroy and Ludwig Oberg. I feel like Sobel, they didn't really do him favors by doing that, did they?
I don't think he cares. He's been out there. I talked to Luke a few hours ago, and he is ready to go, man. This dude, like, other guys come out of college, and we say, oh, we'll see what they have as a pro. He's played 13 career PGA Tour events, has 3 top 5s and 6 top 20s already. The dude already has shown that he can play at this level, more so than guys who even have their PGA Tour cards and have had him for a while. I just don't think he's very flappable. I wouldn't be surprised to see a good one from him this week. I think it might come more like Rocket Mortgage 3M Open is probably where I'll target him. That's where like Morikawa and Matthew Wolff started playing really well. Bryson, I think, when those guys were all coming out and turning pro, that's probably where I'll go with for Clanton, but wouldn't shock me to see him up there on the board this week.
C is also going with Keith Mitchell in the without market and Ryan Fox, similar to Patrick, except he's taking him without Rory McIlroy. All right, Patrick, a little trivia question for you. Name in order the top 3 players in strokes gained approach this season on the PGA Tour.
Scotty Scheffler, Sepp Straka.
Correct. Do it. It's right there on the screen.
Keith Mitchell.
Shane Lowry,
Shane Lowry
is third. Did you know that, Sobel? Did you know that he was third?
No, I was going to say Hoagie.
Listen, Lowry, he's on the do not bet list, so we have to make provisions. This is the without Rory McIlroy market, but he's third, as I mentioned, in approach on tour. He has 2 runner-up finishes this season, and it would be kind of a fun thing to see Rory win and Shane Lowry finish second. So at 18-1, I don't love the number, I'll be honest with you, but at 18-1, yeah, it kind of seems overdue. And he's not playing in the United States, so I can bet him like Tommy Fleetwood because they're not playing in the United States. Let's talk about the without McIlroy, Oberg, Lowry, and Connors market. Love Taylor Pendrith this week. I mentioned it earlier. He had a T12 last week at Jack's Place. Could have been a lot better. He didn't lose nearly 4.5 strokes putting. Finished T5 at the PGA Championship, gaining nearly 5 strokes off the tee. His driver and iron game, they're on point, or usually not. They're usually the issue, or they're usually on point. It's usually the putter that plagues Pendrith. But if he can pop with the flat stick, as he did at the Players, where he gained 6, and at the Houston Open, where he gained 5, I'm going to go on record. He's going to win this event. If he gains 5 on the greens, Taylor Pendrith will win this event. I'm just calling it right now. So 20-1, we're just in case that Rory or Oberg or even Lowry or maybe Corey Connors pops, Taylor Pendrith is going to finish high up there. Also in this market, how about Nick Taylor? How do you not play this guy? Finished solo 4th last week, won this event a couple of years ago. His history in the Canadian Open is dreadful outside of that win a couple of years ago. But as the guys tell me every week, does it really matter what happened in previous years? No, it doesn't. We talk about what happened recently, and Nick Taylor showed it last week at the Memorial where he was in contention. On Saturday, he was in the final group with Ben Griffin. So you know what? Why not Nick Taylor again in Canada, in his home country, at 30-1 in the without market? All right, let's move on to our long shot bets. Let's see what everybody has this week. Patrick, I'm gonna start with you. What do you got for us? Oh wait, you don't have anything. Patrick,
my outrights were pretty much my long shots. They were synonymous with each other.
That's fair. Do you like see as Doug Gim in the without McIlroy market at 70-1?
No, not at all. No thanks.
We won't tell him that. If you're watching, sorry. So Sobel, I looked this guy up, Johnny Kiefer. I was like, why is Johnny Kiefer 60-1 in the betting odds? And then I realized this guy is destroying the Corn Ferry Tour this year.
Destroying. He came up through PGA Tour Americas last year. By the way, I mentioned earlier in the show, because we're looking up the Fortinet Cup Championship held at TPC Toronto last year. Johnny Kiefer finished in a share of 3rd place. I didn't even realize that until now. I had picked him already. I'd written him up already. I'd talked about him already. So that only reinforces my Johnny Kiefer love. So I'm going with a Kiefer ladder. He's played great on the Corn Ferry Tour this year. This guy's got a ton of offensive firepower, hits it a mile. The number is probably shorter than I would have liked, both the outright number and all the finishing position prices. I thought I would sneak one in there, and the odds makers were paying attention, but Kiefer's had a fantastic year on the Corn Ferry Tour. Look, he's going to get his PGA Tour card at the end of the season, so he's playing this week with really nothing to lose. If he doesn't play well, doesn't matter. If he plays really well, good things can happen. He's 83rd in the world ranking already. That's ahead of Max Homa, ahead of Will Zalatoris, ahead of Keith Mitchell, ahead of Chris Kirk. Gary Woodland. There's a lot of really good players who are not as high on the world ranking as Kiefer. That might say more about the algorithm giving too many points to the Corn Ferry guys. But that said, he's very good. I'm taking him, like I said, with the ladder.
And I don't want to start a major debate here, but it's amazing that guys on the Corn Ferry Tour can get a bunch of points, but LIV can't get any. Not that it's the same and they're only playing 3, but there's got to be some kind of weighting system where, guys, I don't know. That's for another day. Interesting pick on that. Any thoughts on that, Sobel?
It'll happen. Trevor Immelman's in charge of the official world golf ranking now, and I'm sure they're all sitting in some boardrooms, going in Zoom meetings and talking about stuff. It's probably going to linger long enough that LIV starts losing some players. I don't know. I mean, yes, LIV should probably get ranking points. It's just, to me, it's a silly conversation. I don't know. The guys left for things other than ranking points. They weren't assured ranking points, and to go back and say, hey, you need to give us ranking points now feels a little duplicitous, but whatever. I don't really have a strong take either way. If you want ranking points, here, have some ranking points. I don't know.
All right, Patrick, I'm going to throw you on the spot here. Will we see in the next 2 years a LIV player play in PGA Tour events?
Like a player who is playing on LIV full time, playing on PGA
Correct.
Tour?
Yes.
Not just a guy who played on LIV and comes back to the PGA Tour?
No, I'm saying like a Dustin Johnson when his contract runs out.
Oh, you're saying when someone's contract runs up
Right.
with LIV.
It's the worst example ever.
Will they return to the PGA Tour?
Right.
Yeah, that'll happen.
It will.
It won't be Dustin Johnson, but it'll happen.
Why not Dustin? You think he's just going to be done?
He's just riding off into the sunset, probably.
I don't blame
on the yacht.
Yep.
Got a great life. Can't really argue with that.
Yeah.
But you think so, Sobel? You think
Laurie Cantor already did?
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. That's what's happening right here. That's this whole like deal, not a deal. What's going on with it? We've had a framework agreement for is it June 6th yet? It's going to be the 2-year anniversary of the framework agreement pretty soon. We got to celebrate. That said, this thing's been going on for a very long time. In my eyes, the PGA Tour doesn't really want an agreement with LIV. Essentially has extended this negotiation, quote unquote, because if they say we're not negotiating, well, the PIF can go find $1 billion in the couch cushions and buy some more players if they want. But as long as you're in negotiations with the other side, then there's probably an agreement between the two sides that we're not going to steal any more of your players. All of that said, contracts are expiring very soon. End of this year, end of next year. I don't know what the PGA Tour is going to do. I know some of the players are going to be mad if they reinstate these guys right away. But guess what? If Bryson says, I'm done playing LIV and I want to come back, you're not making Bryson sit out for a year before he can come back and play. You're not making him go to Q School or go to the Corn Ferry Tour. That would be ridiculous. The whole point is to get everyone back. They're going to bring them back in. It might not be immediate, but it'll be pretty quickly. And if they do, and when they do, we'll have everyone playing again.
It's taken too long. That's why the majors are so great when we get to see the world's best playing in the same place. It'd be great to see, Bryson tee it up and Brooks when he's on his game, or Joaquin Niemann tee it up with the Scotty Schefflers of the world. Interesting question that I saw, and then we'll get to my picks and then LIV picks, everything like that. I'm just deviating here. Scotty Scheffler's been on this amazing run the last couple of years. If there were LIV guys that were playing in these events, would Scotty Scheffler be known today as he is so dominant or no? Sobel, yes or no?
Yes. Like, I don't know why everyone thinks that if there's only two guys that are going to scare anyone coming over from LIV, and that's Jon Rahm and Bryson DeChambeau. Yeah, could Brooks Koepka have a good week here and there? Yes, but he hasn't shown it recently. Joaquin Niemann, just had his first top 10 in a major. Let's not be that scared of Joaquin Niemann. I saw the other day, I was watching Jack Nicklaus, essentially said Ben Griffin, Sepp Straka, Nick Taylor. Yeah, they're nice players, but it wasn't any of the big names. Somehow social media took this and ran with it as if Jack was talking about the lack of big time players because LIV took them all. Who are we missing? It's two players right now. No one else is doing anything that scares you. And trust me, Scotty would not be scared of, I don't know, like Mark Leishman coming back to the PGA Tour and trying to beat him. It just wouldn't matter whatsoever.
Patrick, you with him? You agree with Sobel?
Yeah. Maybe even he might even have more wins.
Whoa. All right. I'm going to get to my long shots at that point. Let's talk long shot Justin Rose. I normally don't play players here in this section. 70-1. He's popped at 3 notable events this season: the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am T3, the API T8, and the Masters. Of course, we know what happened, losing in the playoff to Rory McIlroy. In 5 lifetime trips to Canada, he has 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, and 4 top 15s. Does that matter at a new course? Maybe not, but it's 70-1 outright. I want to hit everything on the board this week, so let's do it. Also, I found this next one at FanDuel in their tournament specials. Shane Lowry, Sam Burns, Taylor Pendrith, all top 10, plus 4,400. Why not take a shot there? That includes ties. 3 players that I like this week. 44-1 may not be Sobel-esque for the long shots, but then again, you gave out Johnny Kiefer at minus 120 in the long shots. So, hey, all's fair that, as we go about this. All right, let's move on to LIV Virginia. See what we have on the slate this week. All right. I like your pick, Sobel. Tyrrell Hatton, and I have an idea about Tyrrell Hatton, but go ahead, start here.
Yeah, well, look, I just mentioned the two guys that would be scary for the PGA Tour players, for lack of a better term, if they came over, and Bryson Rum. The other one that I really like, the other one that I think could reintegrate and be a very, very good world-class player, and he still is Tyrrell Hatton. Hasn't played his best golf this year, but look, I don't know. Maybe the calming waters around RTJ will help him out this week, and he'll go out there and play some great golf. He's been in good mood the last couple of times I've seen him. I think he's keeping things in perspective a little. Who knows?
So Tyrrell Hatton's a guy for next week at the conditions at Oakmont. I'm kind of interested. No, you're not. So here's an idea, though, for you.
Next week's a week when you got to keep your emotions in check and don't let anything bother you. Tyrrell Hatton will hit one off the first tee. He'll find some crazy spot in the rough, throw a club, yell at his caddy, yell at himself, give the ball the finger when it's in the air, and he'll be checked out.
Well, I'm still taking a shot, but here's the way I did it. I parlayed Jon Rahm to win this week at 5.5 to 1. Listen, he's played 19 LIV tournaments. He's finished 19 LIV tournaments, played 20, had to withdraw from Houston last year. He's been inside the top 10 in each of the 19, but only has 2 wins. Wouldn't you think that there's some positive regression that's coming sooner than later at a course that nobody really knows here? I think he's got a pretty good shot. I hate the number, but he's a great player. He's my top play this week. Also, Cameron Smith, the Aussie. Value is too good here for a guy that has 3 top 10s in a row. T9 at LIV Miami, T5 LIV Mexico City, and T7 LIV Korea. Listen, the 2 majors have not been good. That's another guy that, Sobel, you didn't mention that maybe, when he's on his game is a player worth watching. I mean, we saw him win a major at St. Andrews the other year. At 25 to 1, this is a good number. I'm not sure he can win, but I'm going to take a shot with Cam Smith here to do that. Let's get to OAD, and then before we go, I have a quick question for you, both you guys. OAD time. Patrick, I'm disappointed. You should be way higher.
It's tough
because your Scotty Scheffler pick was not put in. So you get to use him again next week if you and producer Josh put him in. Sia dropped. I don't know. Did Sia forget to put in a pick next? I'm not sure what happened there.
I'm thinking people used Scotty Scheffler last week.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Fish 24 now has the lead. I don't remember our other guy, but I don't see him in the top 10. So a lot of Scotty Schefflers were used at the Memorial. Let's see who we have this week. And by the way, if the one guy's watching that always hates my pick, don't worry, I got you this week. You're not going to pick who I took. Well, maybe you will. All right, go ahead. Sobel, you can start with your boy that you've talked about all show.
Yeah, look, I don't do anything too different on the one and done picks. I might try to get a little different if I'm way back later in the summer and I'm trying to make up lost grip. But I don't think Thorbjorn Olesen is going to have a very high percentage. So that's a leverage play, and I think there's a high upside. So I usually take a guy that I'm putting outright on. That's it.
No argument here. Patrick, Cam Young, really?
Really? You're goddamn right, Cam Young. Are you kidding me? We are in full on panic mode after gifting everyone $4 million last week. So when you're in panic mode, you go to Cam Young.
I think C is in more panic mode, dropping to T36 now in this competition on Splash. He's going with Keith Mitchell, who we know is not going to win and probably will find a way to go backwards on Sunday. I just hope he finishes in the top 20. I'm going with Taylor Pendrith, who's my top pick to win this week. I just think it's a safe choice in Canada. And as you mentioned, Sobel, this is his home course. If he doesn't win, he might be on the no-bet list. Or he doesn't finish well this week, he may make a no-bet list spot. But I'm not sure if Taylor Pendrith is a big enough name to qualify for the no-bet list. Probably not. Colin Morikawa was real close, though, after that last week.
Do
was
it.
A joke.
Do it.
If he wasn't playing the Rocket Mortgage, which I know he's already committed to because he's a sponsor of Rocket Mortgage, or they sponsor him, I would put Colin Morikawa on the list. I saw enough last week. Guys, who are we betting for the U.S. Open next week? Patrick?
I might take the week off.
You're not taking – well, you may not be on the show. I don't know if you guys will be on the show. We may have to have Matt Every pinch hit for you. Are you guys going out there? I assume you are probably.
Yeah, I'll be in Pittsburgh Sunday.
So you want to give us a couple picks that you like just offhand, just early, if we're trying to put in some parlays this week. I know Sobel likes to do that. I like to do that. Give me just a couple names.
There's this guy who's flying in under the radar.
Do it.
Scotty Scheffler.
There we go.
He's not going to win. He's not winning next week.
I think if you can find, how you can find alternate spread lines on football games?
Yeah.
I would try to find Scheffler -4.5, and I'd bet that.
Really?
For longer shots, I think there's going to be one guy who finishes under par in this field, and it's going to be Scotty Scheffler. Long shots, if you want to go that route, how can you not look at Keegan Bradley at 100-1? You kidding me?
Yeah.
That's the guy there. Like Harris English, it's gonna be like it'll be great when Keegan Bradley, you bet him at 100-1. You get that CLV, he's 85, 80 at close, and then you're like, all right, this is still a losing bet because Scotty Scheffler is going to win this golf tournament.
Yes, that's exactly it.
So Sobel, so Scotty Scheffler's the only bet.
He's reading names off of my list right here. Scheffler's the bet. I will, because I'm stupid, probably have a Keegan, a Harris English, a Mav McNeely maybe. Those are some other names that I like, but they're not going to win. They're not going to beat Scotty. Someone told me the other day, I have a Harris English outright ticket at 150-1 for the U.S. Open. And my response was, I love that pick. I think that's a really good pick. He finished tied for second at the PGA. He's playing big golf courses really well. I think everything's good about it. The number's fantastic. You're not going to win any money on it, but I think it's a really good bet. I mean, that's the answer. Like, what are we trying to do here? Are we trying to win money? Or are we trying to tell everybody, man, I had a really good outright, but Scotty just screwed me and he beat my guy by 6.
All right, hold on a second. Who are the 2 players in the U.S. Open over the last, let's say, 5 or 6 years that have the best resume, most consistent resume without a win? Xander's one, and Rory. And those are who I'm taking next week. One of those guys is going to win. Xander, Rory.
Talked to Carl Paulson the other day. He did PGA Tour Live on a featured group feed for 4 days. And I think he had Xander for, like, if not all 4 days, most of the 4 days. And he's like, it's just not there. He's like, driver's so bad for him right now. And so for a guy that just watched him play on a fairly similar golf course that's not going to be as hard as Oakmont, and he struggled, I like Xander. Look, Xander's the guy I was watching last week to see if he was ready, and I like him. I think he's going to play well. I just don't think he's beating Scotty right now.
Yeah, you won't be alone, EC. Everyone's going to bet Xander because he has a 2 next to his name. Rahm's the interesting one, I think, at 14, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'd bet Rahm at 14 over Rory at 7.5.
Yes, completely agree.
Before we go, 2 guys that we really didn't talk about this week, Rory and Ludwig Oberg, who are 1-2 on the odds board. Would you put in parlays, including those guys, maybe those guys on top and Scotty next week to give yourself value, a little bit more value? Or are we passing on both those guys?
I'd rather go further down the board as far as outrights this week and try to find somebody that I like and match it up with Scotty next week. I do like the idea of parlaying something this week with Scotty next week, but it's not Rory for me. Rory feels like a little bit like Morikawa right now, which is there's a lot of just stuff swirling around, and it's hard to play good golf when you got stuff swirling, and that's what's going on with Rory. Whether it's he hasn't even talked since the before the PGA Championship started. He had the non-conforming driver, and he's mad about things. I don't know. It just doesn't feel like the right time to go after Rory.
As we see produce. Go ahead, yeah.
An added wrinkle to Rory McIlroy is he has some stuff going on outside the golf course the week after the U.S. Open or after the U.S. Open. He's moving back to the UK. So.
Oh yeah, forgot about that.
Moves are not fun for anyone.
Oh yeah, hire a service. You're good.
I think he has Shane Lowry coming over in the pickup, and he's going to drive that puppy across the Atlantic for him, pay him with some pizza and beer.
As we look at the recap screen, which is perfectly done by producer Matt, Sobel, it's time for story time in the RBC Canadian Open. Do you have anything north of the border?
I don't. I haven't covered this tournament before. I like putting it together with something going on. So I was going to go with story time based on LIV playing at RTJ this week. The first time I ever went there was back in 2005 for the President's Cup. I think it was tied going into Sunday. Fred Couples won a big deciding match against Vijay Singh, who was one of the best players in the world at the time. And Freddie was kind of the tail end of his career, and Freddie went out and upset VJ on Sunday. And by the time they came into the media center to do the big post-win interview with everybody there, like, these guys are half in the bag and they're all celebrating, they're all hanging out, and they're all high-fiving, and there's a big thing going on. They walk in and Freddie comes. I just happened to be at a desk that was kind of right near the entrance to the media center, and Freddie walks right up to me and he's like, "Hey man, you got some football scores?" And we just sat there going through, and he's like, "Oh, my fantasy team's got this guy. Can you check out the box score on that?" And we sat there and basically went through every box score from NFL games that Sunday. Freddie was just beating VJ Singh to win the President's Cup. Honestly, couldn't care less. He wanted to see scores. By the way, Freddie, not that I know him all that well, but every time I've talked to him, every time I've interviewed him, nobody in the game has ever gone from here to there quicker than Freddie. You go, "Freddie, what do you think about Tiger Woods this week?" He'll go, "Oh, Tiger, man." It's like, it's almost like the Yankees and, Mickey Mantle back in the day, because he does everything so well. I don't know if you saw that game the other night. The Dodgers killed him because LA, it's becoming a good sports town, but man, the weather there, it's just so much smog and the traffic, and it's just tough. And you walk away, you kind of nod your head for 4 minutes and you go, "Yeah." And you go back to your desk, you're like, "Man, they use that good quote on Tiger that Fred just gave me." And you sit down and you go, "Fred did not say a word about Tiger. He somehow just talked for 4 minutes." And I'm like, wow, this is great stuff, and didn't answer any of the questions. He's a master at doing that.
How about that? Who knew? And I thought I deviated conversations here and there, like we've done on this show today. Thank you guys for going with it. I got to ask you this, but you did bring up something that was interesting. Do guys look at their phones during the rounds? Like, are they allowed to do that to check scores if it's whatever their favorite teams? Does that happen often?
Yeah, it does. If you're sitting there, even if it's not like slow play and you've got guys, but yeah, if, it's a college football Saturday and you've got, you're waiting to hit your second shot into a par 5 and the guys are still chipping up to the green. You're like, "Yeah, let me take out the phone, see what the score is in some of the SEC games." Sure, they do it. They might have their caddy doing it more than themselves. Hey, check out some scores for me, but yeah, sure.
Guys, another great show. Always appreciate it. Hope to see you here next week. Have a great time at Oakmont. If we don't, thank you for a few early picks. Thanks to all of you in the chat today. For Jason Sobel and Patrick McDonald, and of course, Sia Najad and his picks. For producer Matt, who does a great job behind the scenes, I am Eric Cohen. Thanks for listening. And as I always like to say, let's hit it big. Good luck.